Hey y'all, Jewel here. So, I know I don't usually talk, but I want to add some spice to my videos as most of them are just regular speed draws with some music. And I don't know about you, but if you have my vid on in the background, which I wouldn't blame you for, then as far as I'm concerned, I've pretty much just snatched someone else's music. So from now on, I'll try to add a little bit of commentary where I can, to give you a reason to watch besides my excellent music tastes. At least I hope they are. Besides, I wanted to explain my design process as well as a previous video I'd made. As you know, back in November of last year I had uploaded a speed draw for one of my friends. Unfortunately, I wasn't satisfied with how it had turned out. I felt the outfit was weird and wasn't that appealing, especially the vine gloves I tried to give her, which had come out looking like green chunky noodles. I really wanted to redraw something for her, but with me being occupied by my series and some art block later down the road, I hadn't found the time nor motivation for it. But luckily, I was able to find that motivation in time recently, so with excuses out of the way, allow me to explain my process. So, first off, I usually try to limit my art to a perfect square canvas around 2000 to 2000. This is because of two reasons. One, I was pretty much brainwashed by Instagram, my main platform for posting, to use a square ratio so my art would appear full on the timeline, as well as not completely destroy the quality. And secondly, because I want to draw all of my friends in a sort of collection, and so by using the same aspect ratio for all of the drawings, it would tie them all together nice and neatly like a deck of cards. This would prove to not only be difficult, but I'd eventually struggle to apply this rule to all of them as I broke the rule for the Josephine speed draw. But this time around, I not only had a reference for what she wanted to look like provided by Nisa herself, but felt more compelled to try something new with the aspect ratio and posing, as I didn't feel limited to the perfect square aspect ratio anymore. The first most noticeable change compared to the first was of course the aspect ratio. I had a very specific pose in mind, and I wanted the frame to complement that. I went with the default ratio I use for my thumbnails and got to work. I wanted the pose to be dynamic and look like she was ready to jump into action, so I put her into this sort of lay-low position. Admittedly, yes, it does break the laws of anatomy in many ways, I acknowledge, but with all due respect, I don't necessarily think bending the laws of anatomy in art is a bad thing, as long as it isn't unintentionally jarring. As for the details, because of the very helpful reference provided to me by the beloved herself, I was able to picture the final piece with more clarity. This time, rather than making a full flower-based outfit, I wanted to tone it down by instead making it based on a casual chosen outfit with flower accents, putting smaller blue jewels, light blue flowers, and big violet flowers in places where I wanted attention drawn or where I thought space could be taken up. Admittedly, I should have used more consistency with these elements, using violet where I wanted attention drawn and blue where I wanted to fill the empty space, rather than just using both for the same purpose. But I nonetheless use them in a way that I think beautifully pops off the muted brown and cream colour palette, a much better choice of colours compared to the less coordinated and not so appealing mishmash of colours I used in the previous piece. As for the highlights, I tried not to use it where I felt it was unnecessary as to avoid making anything look plastic or rubbery. The two places I used highlights were on the daggers for the metallic shiny texture and the hair to make it stand out. Speaking of the hair, the last thing I want to touch up on, I usually draw my hair very simple, in clumps with some loose strands here and there, but for this piece I was determined to truly make the hair look like it was flowing in the wind, that the strands were breaking away from each other as a result. So I tried to put more detail and consistency into the way the hair flowed rather than my usual simple clumps. But yeah, now you know how I made this piece. Explaining the process this time around was actually pretty fun. As much as I'd love to do this more often, I don't know if I'll have as much to say on my later pieces as I did on this piece, probably because it was an improvement over a previous piece. If you liked the video, consider subbing too, and hopefully I'll see you back here next time. Also, a very special thanks to those of you who made it this far. Like, I cannot believe you made it through all that shitty pronunciation. Like, shit.